Hi friends, welcome back. We're going to check what the stock market is up to and the news going around the market. So these are the major indices. The Dow is down 0.49, Nasdaq down 0.96%, and the S&P down 0.65%. It seems that the markets are starting to take in and digest the inflation data that we just came out, the CPI and the PPI, and we see a lot of red. Microsoft was down, Amazon was down, Google and Meta, Nvidia was down. Tesla, surprisingly, was not down, up a little bit, but the big loser today was actually Adobe, down 13%. It was down in the after hours yesterday. We talked about that, but down even a little bit more today. If you take a look at more breakdown here, you can see some of the stocks were up. The micro caps and the small caps were the big winners today, with NASDAQ being the big loser. But it feels like this every day to where it's like, a couple steps forward, 3 steps back, a couple steps forward, 3 steps back, that kind of thing. And this is something you want to understand if you're new to this stuff, is that markets do not move in a straight line. You can see this also too. Energy, utilities, basic materials were up a little bit, but again, technology, communication were down. And I want to go through also to the bond treasury. So you can see here, 2-year is at 4.73. 4-year is at 4.31%. We are still inverted. So what's going on with the Fed? What's going on with recession? Headlines here. Fed seen sticking with 3 2024 cuts despite higher inflation. And my personal opinion on this stuff is that Fed should stand pat, but you never know. Right now, I tell you guys all the time, on Wall Street and the media, these kind of things, they need some sort of perspective to keep you excited and keep you buying. And they're trying to sort of nudge the Fed over to a June rate cut. So March is just off the table. So that's going to be next week. They'll have a meeting. We'll watch to see what the Jerome Powell says, and he'll probably say the same kind of stuff. My guess would be, hey, we need some more growing signs that inflation is cooling. We were looking at the data, and don't expect anything anytime soon. Remember that we were talking about before, higher for longer. That's sort of what I'm thinking is happening. But yeah, so at the moment though, the market wants to have 3 cuts. This is actually really interesting as well. So this is some projections of where we could go. So in 2024, if we get a couple of cuts, maybe we'll be down to 4.6%, talking about the Fed funds rate. Maybe in 2025, down to 3.6, and then maybe a target of 2.5, but that's a long ways off, guys. So, I would put those are like way future numbers out of your head, but I just want to show you kind of what the Fed and the market is thinking, and also too, what are economists thinking about the chance of recession. So this is an interesting one. There's 3 possibilities, right? You get the soft landing where everything's great, unemployment comes in great, inflation comes in great. They can put the Fed's fund rate at a level that is neither restrictive nor too much accommodative / printing, and maybe a 17% chance of recession. We'll see. But I'll tell you what's not receding is actually my book. A lot of people pick up copies this month, so I really appreciate that, guys. And I just want to remind you, if you picked up a copy, please leave a review. It's kind of like comments on YouTube. It just helps out with the algorithm. And also, too, I hope you really enjoyed the book. And if you haven't picked up a copy, it's called Positive Angle. And I think you'll like it. It's available on Amazon. And also want to give an update on this story. I'll read the headlines here. Realtors reach settlement that will change how Americans buy and sell homes. And you can take a look at the details here. National Association of Realtors has reached a nationwide settlement of claims that the industry conspired to keep agent commissions high. It said Friday, a deal set to usher in the biggest changes to how Americans buy and sell homes in decades. $418 million agreement will make it easier for home buyers to negotiate fees with their own agents and lead more buyers to forgo using agents altogether, which has the potential to drive down commission rates and force hundreds of thousands of agents out of the industry. I read through this stuff and also talked to my couple of friends that are in the industry. They came on the channel for a live stream, and that's why I'm giving you guys an update. This is a complicated case actually, because one of the just most important issues isn't necessarily the agents themselves. It's just that we don't have the inventory. Also, too, talking about just real estate in general. Remember, interest rates are much higher than they were before, so you have a lot of people that are locked into a low interest rate. So some people have said, hey, I got a rate of like 3%. There's no way I'm moving to go get another place and then take on a 7% or whatever. The other issue is this has to do with commissions. And one of the things that I think was really good to hear my friend's perspective on this stuff is like how much work a real estate agent does for free. Essentially, I'll give you a simple example. Let's say, someone calls you up and says, hey, I'm looking for a house, and, this X neighborhood, this X city. And so someone said, okay, great. I'll line up a couple listings. We'll go look at them together, etc. And so then as an agent, you may show up to said house, and then the client/customer doesn't show. And I know, depending on your neck of the woods, that may or may not happen often, but I'm just saying this kind of stuff happens frequently, and essentially these kind of people don't get paid until the deal is made. Now, one of the things that I thought was interesting going through this stuff is that there was one perspective to where if you make it to where the client would pay an agent up front, right, ahead of these things, and so then you don't have to worry so much about the missing an appointment thing, because you're like, hey, I'm hiring this person for free. But if you paid them ahead of time, maybe you would kind of forego that kind of stuff. However, the way that the things are structured now is that you would include commissions within the price of the home, and then finance it all together. If you do the other way I was saying, we go where you like pay the agent up front, those kind of agent costs would come out of pocket from the client. So I'm no one knows for sure because we haven't gone to that system, but that would really change the industry. Though I would say overall, though, guys, the real estate agent industry has been cooling. So I think a lot of agents will probably be out. There was one projection of from the article was saying like as many as I think it was a high number. It was like maybe 20-30% may wash out of the industry. So we'll see. It's tough out there, guys, and this is sort of what I want to talk with you. And I talk about it all the time on the channel. There's always something going on. One solution to the real estate industry, and I thought this was an interesting one, was porting your mortgage. And this was brought up. I had read about this. This is actually in Canada, and I'm just mentioning it because this is not a thing in the USA. So one problem in the USA right now with the real estate industry is like if you locked in your interest rate, it will say 2% or 3% or whatever. And if you ever thought about moving and you want to go get another place at like 7%, like why? So then that's why people don't move. Now this is an interesting one in Canada, and it also said I googled it. It also said the UK does this as well, porting your mortgage. And I'd be curious for those of you who are in this community, if in your country you do this also, because I'm just saying this said Canada and UK. I haven't heard of this thing in the USA. I don't think they do it. And also too, I think there's too many bankers that make money off you refinancing and buying and selling and stuff like that. Commissions are a lot of money. But the basic idea though is that if you sell a home and then buy one immediately, you basically just keep your mortgage and you just move it to the new property. It's just like that. It's funny because like I was thinking about how much easier and sort of more fluid it would be for people to move. But then I remembered, yes, of course the USA wouldn't do this kind of system because it would take away all the fees and all the middle people involved. But I'll just say, I'd like to hear from perspective of any Canadians or Brits out there who have any thoughts on this porting your mortgage thing. Like I said, the system is not in the USA, so I don't really have much comment other than it is an interesting thing. Also want to take a look at this. Hertz replaces CEO after big bet on electric vehicles fizzles. And this is the kind of stuff you see at the end of a sort of a market boom. Is people realize, wow, we might have made some bad decisions. We might have overhired, and time to mix things up because things are tightening. Here's another related headline. Laid off techies face sense of impending doom with job cuts at highest since .com crash. So I lived through this stuff. That was back in 2000. And they're saying here, since the start of the year, more than 50,000 positions have been slashed at over 200 tech companies. And one thing I've mentioned several times in this channel, and I'll just mention it again for any young person out there, do not discount the trade jobs. So for example, this headline was an interesting one. Young people don't want to be plumbers. That's a problem for the U.S. infrastructure. And the numbers that they gave here, it was, they're saying here, there's one estimate out there that cost the lack of plumbers and essentially trades, cost the economy about $33 billion in 2022. In other words, the country will be short 550,000 plumbers by 2027. So this just focused on plumbers, but you could put in electricians and other kind of trades. If you want to say auto mechanic or something I mentioned as well, or even installing any kind of alternative energy panels. If you read my book, you'll know this. I grew around construction sites and around construction workers, so I can just tell you, growing around these environments, a big complaint for years is that it's hard to find good workers, and hard to find, even back then, hard to find people that are willing to do it. But some of these jobs, guys, if you're in the union, these kind of things, you get paid a pretty decent living, and there's nothing wrong with it. There's no shame or anything like that. But these days, all the young people, they're going after other things, and I guess hard work isn't one of them. I know I make a joke here, but I'm just being really sincere. If you're a young person, the trades are definitely something that you want to be considering. This is actually corresponding to another headline, which I thought was an interesting one. It says here, American debt stings like never before, a new era for households. And basically, I'll give you the basic gist of it, is that if you're in the lower income brackets, you have more credit card debt, and you're struggling because interest rates are high, right? It's easy to understand. And the basic gist of it here is this is delinquencies here, and it has different colors. So black is your, there's black, pink, blue, and yellow, but black is your essentially lower income owners, and they have more delinquency, right, in their credit card payments. You can see that's been going up. They're all going up, but there's just more in the lower quartile. Moreover, if you take a look at like what kind of debt people have based on their income, so the lower you go in income, you have more consumer credit debt. So this is that pink box there, right? And then the wealthier people have less. You guys can see it. It's just right there. Looks like everyone has home mortgages. You can see that also. But really, the reason why it's such a big problem is that credit cards are through the roof right now. Some people have like over 20% interest. And I also want to give you a perspective of a couple of people who are in this camp. So this is coming from Denise and Paul on their wiki. They say they have credit cards are the only way to make ends meet. The couple is age 69 and 72 respectively, and have 20,000 spread across multiple cards, all with interest rates above 20%. And they're saying here the trouble started during the pandemic when Denise lost her job and a business deal for a bar that they owned in the hometown of Lexington, Kentucky went bad. They applied for Social Security, which helped, and Denise now works 50 hours a week at a restaurant. Still, they're barely scraping together the minimum payments for their credit card debt. And I think this is a common problem for many Americans. I mean, you guys get it, right? Basically, your job doesn't pay enough, and you're carrying a lot of debt, and also too, the debt has high interest. And I want to hear their perspective here. It says, the couple blames Biden for what they see as a gloomy economy and plans to vote for a Republican candidate in November. Denise routinely voted for Democrats up until about 2010, when she grew dissatisfied with Barack Obama's economic stances. She said now she supports Donald Trump because he lowered taxes and because of his policies on immigration. We had more money when Trump was president, she said, noting that 3 years ago, her credit card debt was less than half of what it is now. And I want to show you some data on this stuff. It's actually really interesting. So they asked swing state voters, who do you trust more, Trump or Biden, on economic stuff? And the question was, who do you trust more on interest rates? And they're like, well, I trust Trump more over Biden. Or who do you trust more on your personal debt? Oh, well, I trust Trump more. And this is asking voters in Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And I'm putting this out there because, from this point of view, you say, well, my credit card debt is high, Biden is president, therefore it must be Biden's fault. There's a lot of people that do fall in that camp. So I don't necessarily fall in these camps to just, blame a particular politician for these kind of things, but it is very popular in some states. I actually saw an episode of South Park recently, it reminded me of this. If you haven't seen this one, South Park's a funny show, and they're very on point with their satire, but they're basically just, there's a gay couple, and the one guy, I guess he was maybe not gay before, this particular scene, and he doesn't want his partner to know that he used to be a Trump supporter. And he walks by the Trump store, and the people are like, "Oh, Gary, it's you! You got to come in and rally with us." And later in the episode, he sneaks out at night to go rally at the Trump store, and basically the joke is that you go and you hang out with a bunch of people like this, and you just like, Biden's a problem for this, and Biden's a problem for that, and it's all Biden, and it's funny if you see the show. But the point I'm trying to make is I want you to understand the perspective of this kind of person, and why for them it's logical that Biden is all the problems, right? Biden is president right now. I have a lot of debt, and my credit card interest is high. And from that perspective, sure, it makes sense. If you watch my channel, you already know that I have a much larger perspective than that. But there's a lot of people there that don't, and hopefully we get more people, I guess, watching the channel and understanding the system more. Because just for example, if I wanted this person's vote, say as a politician, I would just say, hey, vote for me. I'm gonna give you a stimulus checks like $10,000 every month. And people are like, oh, wow, he's going to give me $10,000 every month. That's awesome, right? And from an individual voter's perspective, yes, that sounds like a fantastic solution, and you vote for that person. But from an overall economic perspective, it's maybe not so great to give everyone $10,000 a month. It's just not sustainable. I'm just giving you for example. So, this is part of what we have to deal with in USA. And, I just want to point this stuff out. Like, the issues you face in USA are crazy, and the people are crazy. This is something that happened in Florida. It's about a year ago, but if you never saw this is on YouTube. I just want to read the headline with you guys. It says, "Two fathers shoot each other's daughters in road rage incident." And I shouldn't laugh. I mean, it's how do you respond to this kind of stuff? This is the kind of people you have to deal with in America. This is in Florida, but basically these two guys, they get whatever traffic incident, and they end up shooting each other's kids. Like, thankfully neither the kid died, but it's like so ludicrous. But again, this is Americans, and I want to make it really clear that when I see this stuff, it's not just particular one group. It's like a lot of Americans do this crazy stuff. Here's another thing: is like you got all these Americans, and these are people that run into the store. This is like a Nordstrom, steal a whole bunch of crap, and then run out. And the reason why I'm showing you all this stuff is because I guess we can blame Biden for all of this, right? I mean, it's such a complicated issue, and so. What I always say for these kind of things is like, don't trust any particular politician to save you. Just rely on yourself. And that's why I talk about, say, jobs, become a plumber, electrician, like have enough money, pay off your debts, these kind of things. But, I understand it's easier to blame, someone else and not take any personal responsibility or agency for your actions. It's much easier to blame someone else, right? And it feels good. But I don't think it's a solution. But it, however, is that kind of perspective is very, very popular on YouTube, and essentially it's just entertainment, right? So the entertainment factor becomes you don't have to do anything to change your life. You don't have to do any action. All you have to do is just blame someone else because it's all their fault. And if you bring in a new president, suddenly everything will be better. And I hate to break it to you, but you got to take care of yourself first, and the politicians aren't out to save you. And I know it may sound kind of mean, but it's true. So I don't care for either politician, but what I do try to watch, though, is the overall system.